Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you can all see me. If you can, just pop a yes or something in the question and answer chat box that's down the bottom on the screen. It would be better if you don't use the actual chat box because it's a little bit more difficult to... fabulous. At least I know I'm not talking to myself now. It will be better not to use the general chat box, but if you can use the Q&A box at the bottom just to put any questions in that you've got, we'll start having a filter through those in about half an hour or so. Right, now you should be able to hear me. See me but not hear me. Is that children? No, that's seen and not heard. Yeah, that's the one. So yeah, it will be best if you've got any questions, if you can pop them into the Q&A box rather than the chat box. It's difficult to monitor two all at once. So if you can just pop any questions that you might have through the webinar into the Q&A box rather than the chat box, that will be great. We'll start in about 1 minute's time. We're up to about 65 attendees at the moment, just to give the last few people a chance to join us. I know that we've got someone who's just on phone rather than video. Hopefully this will sound okay without all the visuals, etc. But we will do our best to get everything for everybody. You will find me glancing from side to side occasionally, simply because I've actually got the presentation open on a different screen so that I can see everything else that's going on in the background. It is hopefully we've got over 70, so I think we'll start. It's almost 5 past. So welcome. It's just gone 2. We'll get started. My name, for anybody who doesn't know me, is Martin Williamson. I'm a business doctor based in Stoke-on-Trent. I generally work with businesses that are looking to improve and grow, but right now I'm actually helping more of them with survival and stabilisation. And hopefully this is what we can cover in today's session. Today's session is in partnership with Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to thank them, and particularly Laura Hodgkiss, for organising this. The Chamber is actually a fantastic resource for you, and even if you're not a member at the moment, please do call them and ask them for advice and help. They're more than willing to help you out. I'll get their contact details up on the screen at the end of the presentation. So this little character causing us all a little bit of a problem at the moment, and I think nobody was ever prepared for the situation that's been generated by him. It's one of those things. We've all got to cope with it. I will just emphasise the safety guidelines that have been introduced, the social distancing, stay home, etc., etc. Probably sick of hearing them, but it's still worth saying it again. So when I was putting this together, I tried to think of the main area of concern that all our businesses, me included, might have. And these are the 5 main questions that I came up with. Just have a read of them on the screen. And I'll do my best to try and cover how to answer these questions for you during this webinar. I can't actually give you specific answers for your own situation because I just won't know about what position you're in. But this forum is just to prompt you to think about some of the issues around each of those questions so you can start to answer these for yourself. So, biggest challenge, do you have a clear vision? Have you got the skills and experience to move the business forward, certainly through this particular short period of a few months? Have a think about what external help you might need. And I think this is a very important question that people aren't thinking about at the moment, is do I think my business will still be here post-virus? We are actually recording this, so the slides won't be available. Although if you want specific slides from it, I'm sure if you email me at the end, I can send them on to you. But a recording of this will be available either tomorrow or Thursday on the Chamber website. So this is a change curve. It's very similar to something called the Kubler-Ross grief curve. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was a psychiatrist who introduced this concept around 1969. It details the normal, and I stress this, normal reactions people have to bad or tragic news. So just have a quick look on what's on there. There's 6 main steps in there. Most people have by now done the shock and denial of coronavirus hitting everything, lockdown, social distancing, etc. And some are starting to move into the acceptance and, to be quite honest, the depression stage. Depression, not necessarily the clinical thing, but it's where you've got low mood, low energy, can't be bothered, etc. Some people may even have moved to experimental, which is good. And the really hawkish of us have moved to decision and engagement and are now actually doing things. We don't move through these stages one at a time in a neat, linear, step-by-step manner. But don't forget, this is normal. Doing it one step at a time will be far too easy. And what happens is we will occupy different stages at different times and can even move back a stage that we've been in before. The stages last for different periods for different people. They might replace each other. They might even exist side by side. But ideally, it will be good to think that we will each reach the phase of acceptance whilst managing the change that we need to go through. But some people do get stuck. Acceptance, the purple one, is probably the most influential step. When you accept where you are, you can then start considering your options and make some decisions. It's a bit like, I don't know, being on a train heading into a tunnel. I don't know what's in there. I've got to keep going on this track because I'm on the train. I'm pretty scared. I've got no option, and I hope there's light at the end. So hopefully, what I'm going to go through today will start to get you into that tunnel, through it, and you can start seeing a bit of light. So, how do we move ourselves through that change curve as quickly as possible? We're into week 3 of lockdown, and I don't know about you, but I've found there's too much noise everywhere at the moment. There's this and that coming out from governments. You can do this, you can do that. There's so much on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, and advisors are saying this, and people are jumping on the bandwagon. And you get to the point where you think, what the flipping heck is actually happening? And it's really, really difficult to try and get a grip on your personal situation, your business situation. And as I say, I normally work with businesses to help them grow, which involves a lot of change. And we've got some quite good processes and quite complicated processes in place for doing that. But I thought, because there's so much going on, I wanted to boil it down into a simpler process as possible. And we've got 6 steps that will help you hopefully move through that change curve. So, theme of the webinar is don't panic, plan it. The very first thing we need to do is take a step back. Just take a bit of time out from, I'd call this mayhem. We've never come across this before. Think about the fact that pre-virus, we'd actually got a great business. Me, you, everybody out there. Those businesses may well have been established for a number of years, possibly months just for some people, but we're in business. We're all putting our efforts into making our own way. We've presumably got a proposition that works, and we've got customers that buy what we do. Hopefully we were profitable pre-virus, but I want to stress that we will be again, okay? But all of a sudden we've got something that's happened that we're not equipped to deal with, which is unprecedented. That word gets used a lot, but it's true. It's really, really important that we don't lose sight of the fact that we're going to come out of this at the other end. A little bit of a guilty admission. I'm also a licensed insolvency practitioner. I've been through 4 recessions in my career. It does end. It does get better. You do come out the other side. We are going to resume normal, as normal as it can be, service, and then we're going to be businesses that are likely to be stronger, better, and more sustainable because we've weathered this problem. So let's not all be doom and gloom. Let's actually remember how great our businesses are. Just take stock and think about the future. And once we've done that, it's then about a bit of a reality check. That reality check is about understanding the current situation and understanding what ground zero looks like. This is probably the acceptance stage of that change curve. Remember that you and your team, if you've got employees, are probably at ground zero already, and you and they can probably see, feel, hear the reality of it. And let's be frank, it's probably a bit scary for everybody. So in order to deal with what's happening, we need to make sure that we understand what that looks like. And I actually call it, take a good look in a mirror. We all hate mirrors. It shows all the spots up and the grey hair and everything else. So that mirror will reflect reality back to you at exactly how it is right now. And when it does that, there's just 3 things to look at. As far as I'm concerned at this point anyway: sales, cash, and people. We need to understand what our sales pipeline is at the moment. Most people are going, I haven't got one. There is nothing there. Okay. Do we know what sales we were or are likely to make over the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months? How are we going to manage that pipeline? Just don't sugarcoat it. Look at the reality. You might be thinking, yeah, I've got 56 orders in pre-virus, but are they still there? Have they disappeared? Make sure, and I think this is probably the single best piece of advice I can give to anyone today, make sure that you, me, we've all spoken to our customers. Make sure we've understood and quantified whether that business that would have come from them is actually still there and is still going to happen. Chances are it's not, but you need to find out. Take that time to talk to them, to understand the pain that they are in. Get a reality check on your current sales pipeline. Don't forget that the easiest source of new income post-virus is going to be your existing customers. Maintaining that relationship will mean that they will be the first to provide you with that new income. So knowing as much as possible about your sales is going to inform the next and probably the most important challenge that most businesses have right now, which is cash. Everybody's shouting cash at the screen. As far as the cash goes, do we actually have a handle on our numbers? Do we actually understand right now what our true cash position is in terms of money that we owe, money that we're owed, what's in the bank, and what that daily picture actually looks like? I'll go through some stuff on this a little bit later, but have we got a real-time understanding of that cash position? If we haven't, we need to get one. It's something that is one of the most basic things that you've got to get to grips with. I've got some suggestions and some tools to help you later, which I'll cover. There are also a number of other things that we need to look at on cash, which is cash preservation. We need to understand how we can actually retain cash that we were otherwise, pre-virus, going to be paying out, now that cash is a lot tighter. There are a lot of what I call soft suppliers, including HMRC, that will be willing to have a conversation with you. So talk to everybody that you owe money to. In the same way you talk to your customers or your clients, talk to your suppliers. Possibly your landlord, although obviously they've got a business to run as well. HMRC certainly. Get payment holidays on loans. Maybe you can get some payment holidays on your credit cards. But wherever you can try and speak to anybody that you owe money to agree something with them so that you can hold on to your cash as much as possible. However, don't just not pay them. Okay, you must have a conversation with them so they know that you may not be able to pay them. Don't forget that they'll have cash flow pressures of their own as well. Talk to those suppliers that are perhaps a little bit more willing to explore a longer term payment cycle. If they're big companies or they're public sector organizations, they're very conscious of potentially the great PR that they could generate from themselves by helping you. They might be very forgiving in terms of money that you owe to them. And if they're your customers, they might be very forgiving as well in that they may pay you more quickly. If you don't talk to them, you can't ask and you can't find out. And obviously look at those suppliers that you may need to protect that, like you, are also in need of cash right now. And if they disappear, your own business disappears. So prioritize the payments you're making in order to help them out as well. Look at the non-direct supply chain that isn't going to interrupt your business, such as utilities. Have a word with the utility company, see if they'll give you a bit of a holiday on. And the third element of that reality check is your people. We may have a number of sole traders here, but I'm going to assume that most people have at least one other, possibly more employees. We really need to understand about the people. Where are they? Okay, have they gone home? Are they working from home and all the pressures that home working has? I was talking to someone yesterday. We were 3/4 way through the conversation and 2 5-year-olds piled into the room and did make it a little bit difficult. So it does get a bit pressured at home. Have your people been furloughed? Do they know what's going on with your business as their employer? They're going to have their own money worries. Are we at risk of those people not being around anymore? Because they may even be in a situation when they're not very well. They also may be in a situation where they're more concerned about their own family than they are about your business. So it's important for you as the employer to know now more than ever to talk to your people. If it is just you, talk to yourself. You might be like a bit of a fool rambling around muttering to yourself, but have a one-to-one conversation with yourself. Sometimes articulating your worries brings them out so you can deal with them. So going through all that, and obviously I'd like to think you do it at a later stage, we've taken a really, really close look at the reality of the current situation. And then that then gives us a platform to work from. That then begs the question, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to actually put some plans together and put some goals and targets together that take us to a place which is realistically the point where we can improve on where we are right now, current position, and put us in a position where we're sustainable, manageable, we can get through the next 3 to 6 months. It's all about developing visions and goals and targets. You'll get a lot of this from people. Yeah, you should have a vision, you should have a goal, etc. But it is really, really beneficial. So how can you develop a vision, some goals, some targets that demonstrate leadership from you, because your people, employees, but also your people around your business, your suppliers and your customers and your bank, etc., are going to be looking for confidence that you can see the future and that you can lead them through it, that you can understand the reality. You can build on that and create some achievable goals over the next 3 months or so. That's where the visions and goals and targets come in. By doing that, you can then exert and feel that you've exerted a measure of control over what's happening. If you feel that you have even a little bit of control, you'll be able to function a lot better. I was talking to someone the day before yesterday about their £10,000 grant because they're eligible for it. He'd had all his paperwork through, but he hadn't filled it in, hadn't done anything with it because his head was like this. It was all over the place. So I had a 10-minute conversation with him, calmed him down, and we actually did it online together. Trying to do everything all in one go is impossible. So as we go through, I'll just break it down into some varying time periods and give you some pointers about what you should be looking at in those periods and to come up with some things for you to consider and put into plans for 7 days, 28 days, 90 days, 3 to 12 months, etc. It is very important that you plan for the rest of this year too, not just the immediate few months in front of us, but the rest of this year, simply because your subconscious will love you for it, because your subconscious will think, okay, Joe Bloggs has got the next 6 months mapped out. I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to bother him. I don't need to wake him up at 3 o'clock in the morning to worry about it. So it's worth still thinking beyond this next couple of months or so. It is all about leadership and it's all about confidence. And what do your planning periods need to look like to show that? What do they need to focus on? It does go back to the sales, cash and people thing. So by now we know what Ground Zero looks like. We've got a starting point for a plan, and it's then focusing on those. Having understood where our customers are, because we've had those really honest discussions with them and understand their pain, we can think about what we can do to support them, and also think about whether or not what can we do anything to sell more to them. Possibly not, but it's still worth thinking about. What can we do to try and retain them during this period, which is probably going to be the biggest outcome, even if they're having difficulties? And what are some of the tactics that we can use to ensure that continuity of sales comes from existing customers? I can't tell you that because I don't know your businesses, but it's something for you to think about. Are there potentially new customers to look out for? Are there other businesses that may now, in the current situation, be in a position where they might need what we do, and possibly not having previously done so, there may be some new business opportunities because a number of businesses out there are actually in high demand. Transport companies supplying to the NHS, delivery services, they're supplying people at home. What else is there? There's social media. A lot of people are realizing they've got to have an online presence. So people that supply social media services are in high demand. So how can we be a little bit more agile and think about what we do to see whether or not we can leverage off the demand and ask for extra business and extra custom? So you'll need a sales plan to consider what you're doing at the moment, what you could do extra of, what you don't need to do because no one will ever buy it in this short period. And that sales plan will need to address all these points and have actions that you can undertake to generate those existing new contacts and sales. In terms of cash generation, having a sales target is a definite yes, you must. You've got to have something to aim at. If you're just drifting along like this without having those targets, it's going to be very, very difficult. Understand what that's going to do to our cash. So what's going to come in, what's going to go out. And quite importantly, what organisation do we need in terms of people and resources to actually deliver on that plan, those services, those products? So It's different now. We're in a wartime footing, if I can put it that way. So you may need to define or even redefine roles and responsibilities. So get a plan. It's going to sound a bit trite, but a goal without a plan is just a wish. And to be frank, a plan without action is a waste of time. So how do we go about implementing the plan? And as I say, the most important thing is around that communication and that leadership thing. Actually look at the plan in terms of what we need to communicate. So talking to people. This is why I'm saying engage with everyone, talk to each other. Understand the roles and responsibilities to take that plan forward, and recognise right now that we, ourselves as business owners, have actually been doing one of the most critical roles that needs to be fulfilled over the next couple of months, which is being a leader. You've taken control of your own leadership just by being here on today's seminar. How are we actually going to measure this plan and make sure that it's achievable, that we're actually doing things and getting things done? That phrase at the top of that page is, if you don't measure it, you can't change it. If you don't measure it, you don't know what's happening. And there's a few tips just on this slide to help you measure things. People often think of paperwork as a pain in the backside. But one of the best things that you can do at the moment is keep your financial records for your business and personally to a large extent, but we're concentrating on business here, is keep up-to-date financial records. A lot of people have Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, other accounting packages are out there, but those are the most common. They're easy to use, and whilst you're not busy running around with your ass on fire running your business, make sure that you spend time, even if it's only half an hour or an hour each day, just bringing the paperwork up to date, put all your financial records in order. Put yourself a sales plan together about what am I going to sell, who am I going to sell it to, where are they, who do I need to contact, etc. Set yourself up a spending plan, which comes from your conversations from with your suppliers. So you know what you've got to spend in terms of your cash flow record and when you're going to be spending it. And the best habit to get into is to update all of these on a daily basis. Very often you'll only do it at the end of the month, so month end stuff, etc. Some people do it weekly, but I've got to encourage you to actually do it on a daily basis to make sure that you know exactly what's going on. So you've got your plan, you're doing it, you're reviewing it because you're measuring it, and sometimes you'll find that some of the bits that you put in your plan aren't working. Don't change your goals and your vision, change your plan. If you know you want to get to a certain point, instead of going that way to it, go that way to it instead. So keep the vision and goals and targets set, but change your plan. One thing a lot of people, including me, are generally not very good at is asking for help. But in this current environment, asking for help is actually really, really beneficial. If you ask for help, you're actually opening yourself up to a pool of ideas and a pool of other people where you can discover some hints, tips, tools, techniques, etc. to help you through this mayhem. And it's also good that the person you are asking for help from will also benefit, because it gives them a sense of confidence that you consider them important enough to reach out to them for help. And that will indirectly help them with their own confidence, their own leadership, and everything that we're talking about today. So you're not alone. Talk to your friends, family, business people, bad record, stuck record, customers, suppliers, employees, your advisors. Make sure that you've spoken to your bank and asked for them their help. So don't be afraid to ask for help. So just a reminder of that change curve. Hopefully those 6 steps will help you start to move through these particular 6 steps and get you through to the yellow and the grey one, which is your decision and engagement step, as quickly as possible so you can start moving forward. Now, one of the things that's probably uppermost in most people's mind is cash flow. So what is cash flow? Some people aren't that clear about it. So most are, but some aren't. So I'll just go through it. Simply put, start at the top, you make a sale, customer pays you, money ends up in your bank account, you pay what you owe, and you just keep doing it. So that's the simplest version of it. But right now it's broken down here, which is really, really early on in the cash flow cycle. So we need to work out how we're going to get customers to pay you, which is the conversations that I've asked you to have with people. But if they're not going to pay you or they're going to pay you later, you need to find out. So Communication with your customers is vital so that you can then, as much as possible, pay what you owe. So how do we monitor that cash flow? Again, daily monitoring. Cash flow is vital. It can be done on pen and paper. It can be done with a simple spreadsheet. There's a quick example up there. It's a mocked up from one of my own. They're not true figures. They're a lot higher than that. No, really. But each of those columns for me would represent a month. Now they should represent a day. So each column should be a day, at least a week. So each column should be at least a week, preferably a day. And basically, what's coming in at the top, what's going out at the bottom, will then give you, if I can just highlight it with my mouse, will then give you that yellow line at the bottom, which is your cash balance. So each day or each week, you will then know exactly what money you have to spend. You should ideally do this for 4 to 6 weeks. That's a reasonable period. The best thing will be for 12 weeks, 3 months, which is the potential period of the lockdown. But as you go through using a spreadsheet, you'll start at week 1, you'll get to week 12, you'll finish week 1, add week 13 on. Finish with week 2, add week 14 on. Week 3, week 15. So you've then got that rolling cash balance at the bottom. Whether it's by spreadsheet or different software, it doesn't really matter. You'll then know over the next 10 to 12 weeks what your cash position is going to look like. There is software out there. I'm just going to highlight one because I actually use this myself. It's called Flow. And if you are keeping those electronic financial records up to date, Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, etc., this particular piece of software will link into those and it will pull everything out for you and give you summaries on the front of your screen. Some of this, people may say, yeah, that's the same as Xero. It's very similar, but it will give you just that extra few insights. The basic software package is free. There is a paid version. It's about £10 or £11 a month. I don't get anything from this if you sign up. There's no financial incentive for me. I'm only putting it out there at the moment because it's what I use. We do have the Business Doctor Pulse software system, which is actually quite a sophisticated piece of software that allows for cash flow modeling and projections. We do have a specific COVID-19 model for this, but it is a paid service. So unless you've got a slightly larger business where your turnover's a couple of 100,000 or so each year, you won't need the Pulse software. The Flow software will be fine. And just as an illustration of what you get for the paid service, this is what it will give you, the extra detail it will give for you. It will interpret it in the background for you, present it on screen. You don't need to understand profit and loss. You don't need to understand cash flow in particular. This will tell you what's happening. Now, I'm just going to touch just for a few minutes on the government help that's available at the moment, because it will impact on your planning and on your cash flow. There was a good webinar by Chris Beeston from Gaines last year, which went into a lot more detail on this. So the grants, they're available now. All the local councils around the country have the money. Please, 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 when you've got your information through, which will go through to whatever business rates address you use, which may be your office. So if you can get access to your office, please go and get the letter. Fill it in, send it back, do it online. You'll then know when you're going to get the grant if you qualify. 80% of wages, self-employed income paid. Again, a lot of detail has gone out on that. It will factor into your cash flow. If you've got furloughed employees, every month, once they get the system up and running, you will be able to get 80% of the cash back. Deferring VAT and income tax. VAT from now until the 30th of June this year is deferred, so you don't need to pay it. Not now anyway. You will need to pay it by, I think it's the end of March 2021. So at some point you will need to pay it. Your July on-account payment for personal income tax is also deferred. That needs to be paid before the end of this tax year. However, HMRC will not cancel your direct debit. If you have already submitted a VAT return where there is a payment due between now and the 30th of June, HMRC's system will still take it. Because once you submit your VAT return, the amount that's due on the VAT return automatically gets pulled into HMRC's direct debit system. So you must cancel your own direct debit instruction at your bank. If you've not done so already, please do so. We'll sort it out at a later stage with HMRC, But even they have said there is a press release from HMRC to say cancel the direct debit. That will avoid that money going out. That will help with your cash preservation. If you have VAT returns that are still due to be submitted, you must submit them. So it's a deferral of payment of VAT, but not of the obligation to submit VAT returns. So make sure that when they're due, they're put in. There are business rates holidays for various firms, various size firms, various types of industry. That will factor into your cash flow and planning. CBILS, Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme, has got off to a poor start, in my view. Minimum loan value is 25,000. So if you need less than that, you're probably best off with an overdraft at some point. The latest guidance is that loans up to £250,000 do not require personal guarantees, but they may require some form of other security. Again, talk to your lender and make sure that you're actually going to the accredited lenders, because there are some scam emails going around at the moment, scam texts, etc., etc. You can find details of the accredited lenders on the British Business Bank website. All the latest stuff from HMRC, if you search for HMRC COVID-19, you will find them. And if you're having trouble paying any other form of tax, that's PAYE, national insurance, corporation tax, etc., ring HMRC on either one of those numbers and speak to them about a time to pay agreement. That will help you out with your cash flow. Excuse me. So in terms of planning periods then, let's have a look at the next 7 to 28 days. I'm not going to repeat everything I've said, but over the next few days or so, if you haven't already done so, have a look at your sales and your cash. Have a look at your people. Talk to all your customers and suppliers. Talk to your bank. They are pretty damn good, to be quite honest, in most instances, in coming to some form of agreement with you, or possibly help with small overdrafts, payment holidays, etc. They recognise that you're going to have those problems. Start monitoring your cash flow, whether or not you use the Flow software or anything else, or a spreadsheet, but start monitoring it and get that 3 month period, those 12 weeks period set down. Set what you're going to measure, as in how many times you're going to contact people, how many times you're going to speak to suppliers each day, what sales you would like to make, what sales you can actually make. Start measuring those. So get the foundations in place. Once you've done that, just firm up on the bigger visions and goals and targets over the next 3 months or so, and get into that habit of doing those daily reviews. It gives you an opportunity to go and do something other than gardening or washing the car or fighting with the dog, etc. Make sure that you're updating your measures, you're updating your cash flow every single day, and at least once a week, talk to your customers again. There are lots of people out there who I've had conversations with over the last couple of weeks who are just glad that someone called to say hello, how are you? Not trying to sell them anything, not trying to do anything with them, but just trying to reach out to them. I just had a question pop up, link for the Flow software. I'll pop that into the chat box a bit later, or if you have a word with the chamber, we can give that to you. So as I say, weekly talk to your customers, your suppliers, your bank. Just give them an update of what you're doing, so that they have some confidence that you're on top of things. And then if you have teams, if you have employees, make sure you update them as well. It could just be a quick email, but I would thoroughly recommend having a conversation with them just to give that personal touch. 90-day plan. A little bit more difficult to give you detail on this. But once you've set your visions and your goals and your targets, have about 4 or 5 of them, no more. Use that as a structure. Look at each one. Decide what you need to do to achieve them. Okay. You'll then have some action, some tasks in there. Break those tasks down to the smallest possible action. Right now, people are struggling. Their heads full of stuff. So if you can break things down into 5 or 10 minute tasks, everybody can find 5 or 10 minutes. Might be more difficult to find 2 or 3 hours to complete something. But if you do 5 or 10 minutes on one particular thing each and every day, then you'll soon find that you'll start making some progress to them. And to do that, I would suggest, again, productivity wise, just put them in your diary. So you don't have to remember them. You just look at your diary every day and go, okay, what am I doing today? And then do them. There's no secret sauce to this. Break the task down, put them in your diary. So this afternoon or tomorrow, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Don't put too many things in there, otherwise you'll find yourself not meeting it and you'll get disillusioned, but do them. Record and measure those results. And then if the plan isn't getting you to where you want to go, refine the plan. 3 to 12 months, again, we're starting to get into more of an overview here. So it's a bit more of the same. Look at your visions and your goals and targets and say, okay, in order to achieve X, I've got to do this week, this month, something else in 2 or 3 months' time. It's the 2 or 3 months' time that goes into your 3 to 12 months planning. It's going to be less detailed because we don't know what the situation is going to be like. But have something in there that motivates you, that builds something into your plan that gives you something to look forward to. Pre-virus, I was hopefully going on a cruise to the Greek islands. My 3 to 12 month plan is still to go on that cruise when hopefully I'll have enough money to go on it. But it's there that I'm working towards it, and that will fuel what I'm doing in the day-to-day and the week stages to get me towards it. But above all, plan on being here. Don't go, ugh, the world's fallen apart. Well, it hasn't. It's got a lot more difficult, but plan on still being here with a business, still trading, still making profits, still enjoying yourself. I mentioned about external help. It doesn't have to be me. It can be anybody. It can be other business advisors. It can be your accountants. It can be friends who are also in business. If you do come to me specifically, we have a free Zoom session that we'll have a more in-depth chat with people about. I'll give you a bit more detail on flow, but I will help you start the conversation for yourself to start doing this planning. Details are there. We do other pay stuff. I'm not going to pitch that now or mention that now because we've got far too much else to worry about. So those 5 questions I put at the start, hopefully today has given you enough pointers to start working on things yourself now. So biggest challenge, decide what it is. Have you got a clear vision where you're going to go over the next 12 months? And break it down. 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. Do you have the skills and experience to move the business forward? Look in the mirror. Decide if you have or you haven't. And if you haven't, ask for help. What external help may I need? Again, ask for that help. And do I think my business will still be here post-virus? If you're not answering a firm yes, go back to question 1. What's my biggest challenge that will mean that I'm not going to be here in post-virus period? So hopefully that's given you some food for thought. That's given you some ideas to think about. And whilst we're not incredibly busy servicing our customers, because most of them have gone away, it will give you a chance to, that old phrase of work on your business rather than in it. So Q&A. Let's have a quick look at the Q and answer box. So our VAT quarters are January to March, April to June. Which ones can we defer payment for? Right. Your deferred payment will be for your, okay, Laura says she wants to answer this live now. I'll do it. So VAT quarters ending March, you would submit it at the end of April and you would pay on the 7th of June. So that one is deferred. Okay. The April to June VAT quarter finishes 30th of June. You submit your VAT return in July and you pay on the 7th of August. So the June quarter end would still need to be paid in August. Okay. Link for the Flow software. Just bear with me. I'm just going to flick back through these slides. Just bear with me. I'll leave that one up. There we go. So the link for the Flow software is there. Click on that one or put that one in. It'll take you straight through to it. Next question is, do you think it's okay to call customers or is it better to email them at this time, as I think people may see it as a bit of a hard sell? I would always recommend people speak to each other. Email can be quite impersonal. It can be quite difficult to interpret it. I said over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've had 100+ conversations with people. And you can say, I'm just giving you a call to say hello, see how you are. Not trying to sell you anything. Be upfront about it. Just say, how are you? How are you getting on? How can I help? There may be an opportunity to sell them more. There may not be. But at this stage, I think if you are going in hard sell, will you buy more from me? The answer will probably be, I really don't want to know about you anymore. I think the people that will offer support rather than try and take advantage of the current situation will be the ones that will benefit the most post-virus. People have a long memory, called an elephant memory. And if they feel that you've upset them, they will remember that you upset them for a long, long time. My personal advice would be to actually speak to them, pick up the phone, if necessary, follow up with an email, but there's no substitute these days for actually speaking to people. Next step up, better still, is a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call or a video call, whichever you want to do. That's the best one, I think. Next question, can you give any guidance around furlough arrangements? No, I can't. I'm not an expert on furlough arrangements. If you know of someone who is an HR specialist, or you know a legal advisor who has an HR speciality, they are the best ones to speak to. There's lots of stuff on LinkedIn where HR people are issuing guidance notes to the public at large, if you like, on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook. Have a search on there. I'm not an expert, and I won't profess to be one, to be quite honest. So unfortunately, I can't help with that one. Can you explain what work for your business, if any, a furloughed worker can do whilst furloughed? That one I do know. A furloughed worker cannot carry out any work if it's either does generate or is likely to generate any income for their employer. So that basically means they can do volunteer work, again, if it doesn't generate income, or training, and that's probably about it. So again, just have a word with someone who's a bit more specialised in that to find out what they recommend. I think that's everyone that we've covered on questions. Is there a chamber webinar on the furlough provisions? Okay, I'm going to have to ask Laura to come back in on that one to see if she can answer that one. So just bear with us whilst Laura can hopefully turn on her video as well. Yeah, turn the video on, Laura.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good.
I'm just going to speak if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
In terms of the, because furlough at the moment is changing every day depending on what the government are deciding to do with it, we are finding it quite difficult to find somebody that is going to talk about the exact HR furlough suggestions that the government are guiding on at the moment. However, what I would suggest is that we do have a chat webinar that we do pretty much every Friday, apart from this Friday, with Joe, our HR expert, who is very good at furlough and what's actually happening at the moment. If you look on our webinars on the Business Support Clinic, on 2 of those on our actual website, we do answer a lot of furlough questions on there. So it might just be something you might want to just have a look at our webinars, the Business Support Clinic ones, that answered quite a lot of the furlough questions that have been and gone, if that's all right with Martin.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Another one's come up for, would you recommend using this time to deliver online training for team members and one-to-ones? Online training, certainly for furloughed workers or workers at full stop. One-to-ones, yeah. Again, probably not for furloughed workers, because doing one-to-ones will probably be with a view to generating contacts, possibly new business, etc. There's got to be a grey area in there somewhere. It's probably best to stop out of that grey area just in case you compromise your ability to make claims under the job preservation scheme or job protection scheme for those 80% for your furloughed workers. But yeah, I would personally restrict anything to do with furloughed workers to either volunteering or online training. Okay, I think that is probably everything that we've covered. I need to cover anyway. There are no more questions. So unless there's any more questions, I'll just give it a quick minute or so just to wait, see if there's any more questions. I'd just like to thank everybody for spending the time to attend today. Hopefully you found that of use. Hopefully you can start thinking about where you are, get a handle on it, get a grip on it, start doing a little bit of planning. Even just a little bit of planning will make you feel that little bit better within yourselves, and start having those conversations. the worst someone can say is no, not interested, or not answer the phone. But if you pick up the phone up, have a word with people, if nothing else, you'll find out we're all in the same situation. You're not on your own. And just stay positive about it. We will get through it. It just needs more effort than normal. So thank you very much indeed for everybody attending.